Hey guys, welcome back. So this video discusses some fairly advanced functionality within the Boss GX100. There's a lot to unpack here, but I'm going to try to explain it in as simple terms as possible. And if you make it through to the end of this video, I truly believe that you'll have been able to unlock the possibilities of this unit. I'm going to break it down into several individual sections, starting with an overview, and the timestamps will be in the description below. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, you'll notice that I've dedicated the bank down and bank up button to the looper. So if I hit the bank down button, it starts the recording process of the loop, and then hitting it a second time, it then plays back the loop that I've just recorded. Now, if I want to overdub on top of the currently playing loop, I just hit it a third time, and now I can overdub, which you saw from the opening sequence that I recorded. Now I can stop the loop by hitting the bank up button, and then I can start the loop playing again by hitting the bank down button. Now if I want to clear the loop entirely, I just long press on the bank up button, and now I have a clean slate and I can start again. So again, pressing down to record and playback. So let me just demonstrate that in real time. I'll just play something. So moving on, you'll see that I've got the C2 button set to toggle between manual and preset mode or patch mode. So hitting it a second time, you can see now in the display that I've got flanger, phaser, chorus, and a delay setting on these bottom four switches. Hitting it again toggles it back to preset mode, where I've got a bunch of functions set on switch number 1. And this toggles basically between a rhythm and lead sound. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'll see that I like to be able to toggle between a rhythm state and a lead state with the press of a single button. So now, if I long press on the C2 button, you'll see that it engages the tuner. So then I've got instant access between preset and manual mode by single quick press, but the long press will basically engage the tuner. The expression pedal is set to automatically turn the wire on when I move it forward, and I have a video that I'll link up above here showing you how to do that. So you're probably asking yourself, well, if I've dedicated bank down and bank up buttons to the looper, how am I going through banks? So what I've actually done is in enabled a function within the GX100 that allows you to increment through the banks and limit how many banks it actually increments through. So typically for myself, I only use one bank generally throughout a gig, but you might have 2, 3, maybe 4 banks that you want to move through. You're not going to use every single bank within the GX100, so it's possible to actually limit the range of the banks. Now, I've set this up just to basically increment through 2 banks, and I'll show you how that's done. So if you have a look in the top display, you'll see that as I press forward on the expression switch, it actually then moves into the next bank. Now, the lights are flashing because it's waiting for me to select an actual preset from that bank. So if I select one, and now I'm on the second bank. And if I press increment again, it goes back to my first bank. Because I've limited this to 2 banks only. Now you could have multiple banks that you're incrementing through, and we'll have a look at that in more depth a little bit later, but essentially that's how I'm able to go through different banks of sounds. And lastly, every single patch utilizes the C1 button as the tap tempo. So now that we've gone through the overview of what I've got going on here, I'd like to deep dive into each individual section. Again, the timestamps will be down in the description. So if you want to skip ahead, or if there's a function that you already know about, just go to the next one. And let's have a look at each one in a bit more detail. So to set up the bank limit, you need to go into menu and then play option. And you can see you've got your bank extent minimum and bank extent maximum. Now I've got mine set to user 1 through to user 2. Now if you've got 3 banks, you might set the maximum up to 3. And of course, you can start your banks at any position. So you might be starting at bank 2 up to bank 4. So for my purposes, I've got basically 2 banks going on here. So I'm able to increment through the 2 banks that I've got purely by pressing forward on the expression switch, which I'll explain in a moment. But first of all, let's have a look at this bank mode. So we have 3 different functions here. We have wait 1, wait 2, and immediate. Now, if we're in immediate, I'll just exit here. Now just view the top display here where it's showing user bank 2. Now, if I increment through, you can see that it automatically, as soon as I press the expression switch, it's going through to user bank 1 and it's selecting the first available preset within that bank. Now, I may not necessarily want that to happen. I might want to be going into preset number 3 from that bank. So what we need to do then is go into menu, play option, and now what we'll do is we'll set to wait 1. Again, I'll exit. And now what will happen is when I press forward on the expression switch, you can see now that the buttons here are flashing, waiting for me to select an actual preset to use. So in this case, I'll select preset number 3. And our third function is wait 2. Now this is handy if you want to only use manual mode. So you can see here I'm in manual mode and I can't select a preset from any of these 4 switches because I'm already in manual mode. So it's only going to toggle the respective effect on or off. Where this is handy is I'm able to press to increment into the next bank, and then it'll wait for me to then select the preset from there. So it's handy if I'm already in manual mode and I can't select a preset. It's basically allowing me to do that. So that's the 3 different modes. And of course, I've got the expression switch set globally so that it behaves in the same manner on every single preset that I've got set up. So let's have a quick look at that. So hit the control expression button and then control function, and just paging right, you can see the expression switch is sent to function bank up, and it's set to system, which means it will function globally. So every single preset will take on that behavior. In my last video, I demonstrated how to toggle in and out of the manual mode by utilizing the C2 button. Now, I had it set up so that when I long pressed on the C2 button, it turned the manual mode on and off. and a short press would turn the tuner on and off. Now, this is a shout out to Jay's SC90. He suggested potentially changing the functionality so that short press turns the manual mode on and off, whereas a long press actually turns the tuner on and off. And that actually makes a lot more sense because you're going to be accessing the tuner a lot less than you will the manual mode. So let's just have a look at those two separate functions just to be clear on what I'm talking about. So jumping into the control and expression menu here, control function. Now you can see that the control 2 is currently set to tuner and manual. Now this is the setting that I had in my last video. Now if I exit, a single press on the C2 button engages the tuner. However, if I want to access the manual mode, I have to long press on that switch. And now I've toggled out of manual mode. However, if I go back into that control function menu and just change that to manual tuner, now what happens is I can instantly toggle between manual and preset mode, and then long pressing will engage the tuner. And this actually makes a lot more sense. Probably one of the least intuitive functions of the Boss GX100 is the looper. Now it's not an incredibly powerful looper, it just basically gives you the ability to set up a couple of quick loops. You can overdub, you don't have any sort of advanced functions such as the quad cortex where you can half speed or reverse, things like that. It just simply allows you to record a loop, overdub that loop, start, stop, and clear. That's pretty much all it's able to do. But as you saw in the opening sequence, I've dedicated the bank down and the bank up buttons to do all those functions, and I'll demonstrate how we can set that up now. So the first thing you need to understand about the looper is that it needs to be in the effects chain. So you can see if I scroll through here, I've got it at the end of the effects chain. I've got it set before my send and return because I'm sending the whole signal out to the camera. However, you would typically use the looper at the end of the chain, so it's capturing all of the sounds and effects coming in preceding the actual loop. If you want your loop that you've just recorded to carry over to another preset and continue playing so that you can utilize a different sound, then you need to have the looper set up in that patch as well. Okay, so basically every single patch that you're utilizing that you want to use sounds from in your loop, you need to have the looper set up. So once you've set the loop up in all your presets, this is how I've got the control set. So if we go into control expression and control function, now you can see that I've got the bank down set to loop control. Now this is the play, stop, and overdub function, and then I've got the up button set to loop stop. Now long pressing on the loop stop will actually clear the loop. Okay, and I've got those set to system so that they're available to me in every single preset within the GX100. Now if you set this function to memory, it's only going to be set for this particular preset. So we want to make sure that it's set to system so that it's available to us in every single preset within our banks. So if I exit there, again, pressing once records, pressing a second time plays back the loop you've just recorded, a third time overdub, and if I want to stop, I just press the bank up button. I can restart the loop by pressing the bank down button, and of course I can stop, and then if I want to clear the entire loop, I just long press on the bank up button and it'll say clear. And the last function in the looper is the level, where you can adjust the level or the volume of the recorded loop. Of course, you can go into the loop effect and you can adjust it here. But what I'd like to do is have it so that it's set up on this number 1 knob here so that I can turn that. So basically how we do that is go into the control expression, and these knob settings allow you to set any parameters to be able to control from these 4 knobs underneath the display. So this first one, I'm going to use the number 2 to select the category, and I'm going to just toggle across to phrase loop, and you can see that the loop level is set. And of course you can set these 4 knobs to function however you like within your preset. So as an example, if I go down to knob number 2, I might want to adjust the booster level of boost. So then if I exit there, now you can see I can actually adjust the level or the gain of my boost from this knob here. And of course I've got the loop level that I just set up there as well. And these knobs are set per preset or patch so that you can have different knob functionality on every single preset within your GX100. You might want to set it up as say a tone stack where you might have treble, mid and bass for the amp settings. So they're really handy. They're just an added functionality that you can control in any way you want, but specifically for the loop as a quick access to change the actual loop level, then it's handy to assign one to that. Now it goes without saying that the looper is great for being able to play different guitar parts and being able to stack different performances, but it's also a really great auditioning tool when you're creating new presets. And often I'll use this rather than having to play something, tweak an amp, change the settings, retweak. The looper is actually really beneficial and saves a lot of time when you want to audition certain sounds. And what I mean by that is if you set the looper at the start of the effects chain, that means anything that you change after that point will change in the sound that you've already recorded. So what I'm going to do now is quickly initialize a preset or a patch, and I'll demonstrate how I would set this up in real time. Okay, so you can see I've got a very basic effects chain here that I want to begin with. So I've got a wah, a boost, an amp, and a noise suppressor. So what we need to do first of all is to go into the effects palette, and we want to select the looper, and we want to grab that, and we want to place it right at the front of the effects chain. That means that when I record something, it starts here, and then everything I change after that point will then take on the sound of the changes. So you can see here that my effects chain has all of the effects turned off, and it means that I can start with an absolute blank canvas. So the first thing I'll do is record a loop into the GX100, knowing that I want this sound to potentially be a distorted heavy tone. So I'll play something that I think is going to suit the sounds that I'm going to be creating. Okay, so there's the loop done. So now what I would do is I would either do this via the app, or I would just get down on the floor and I would just start tweaking away. So let's just go through that. So for the next couple of minutes, what you'll be seeing is me turning things on and off, changing settings, and you'll actually hear the loop change as I'm doing that. Okay, so here we go. Now, of course, you could spend hours just going through that process, but you can see how much easier it is to be able to just go through and you're auditioning the sound as you're tweaking knobs. So it's almost like somebody's playing the parts for you and you can just go ahead and create the sound. So that's just a useful tip, and it's something that I do quite often. Rather than having to play something, tweak, how does it sound, I just play something in and then I just create the preset from there. So that's a lot to unpack, I know. If you feel that there was something that I didn't explain thoroughly enough, please comment below and I'll try to address those questions in a future video. But for now, you can see that, look, this is a really functional layout. I believe that, you know, being able to scroll or increment through your banks, use the wah, looper, have different switches set to toggle different effects on within each patch using the manual mode, being able to select different presets, it's truly very powerful. Like, for its price point, I think the Boss GX100 is really unbeatable. Honestly, it never ceases to amaze me with the different things that you can do with it. And I hope that you've made it through this far, and that you're able to put some of those different functions into practice in your own live playing. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help. And I'll catch you on the next one.